Hey guys, this is just a quick one. We're going to quickly run through fog. Now, somebody asked me to make a fog particle effect, and I've thrown one together. However, I'm not sure that we should really use it. It's not the most efficient way of doing fog. The reason being, the particle system needs to, for it to render fog, we need a translucent material so that we can, actually have some opacity to our fog. You can just about see it there. Now, when we place this into our scene, now you can see it's quite nice. It's got, I think I put a bit of rotation into it. I might not have put any rotation in it. It's quite nice. If we open this up, we've got some stuff in here. I've got this set to GPU sprites. I'm just using a burst that lasts forever. Let's see. Let's just add some more to this so that we can see the fog a little bit better inside the level. There we go. You can see it's quite a nice effect, and if they were rotating, then they wouldn't be so obvious. Now, the issue with using this is purely optimization. Now, if I go up here to our view mode and I go to optimization view modes and I turn on the shader complexity, then this is what we get. Now, green means that the shader isn't causing any problems and it's optimized. Into red and this dark, then it's getting bad, and wherever it's white, it's extremely bad, and you don't want to do this. You are going to melt a graphics card. You are going to cause some huge problems for performance. Now I'm going to turn that off again. We can go into the particle system and turn this down, which you can barely see this. And if we go to our optimization and shader complexity, it's less of the extremely bad, but it's still extremely bad. Let's see down the bottom we have the PS and the VS, or the US. That, I don't know if it's a P or a V. It looks like a V. That are moving along. This is telling us what we're currently looking at and where that is on the slider. So when we're looking into fog here, we are getting some really bad shader complexity. So particles are just not the way to go with this. Instead, I'm combining. I'll show you the effect that I've got if I let these become visible in game. There we go. So this is what I'm getting using just the built-in fog mechanisms in Unreal. Now I'm having to combine them together, and this took a bit of experimentation to get this like this, but it's quite a nice fog. You can see it works really well for making objects in the distance harder to see, and then much easier to see once up close. So what have we got here? We have an exponential height fog. Now this just adds some fogginess to the ground, and all I've done is I've changed the density to 0.05. I've just wrapped that up to 1, and in fact that might mean we don't even need this one, because this 0.05, for some reason on the fog density 0.05 was the default, and I couldn't slide it up. Yeah, the slider won't go beyond this, but you can actually type in 1. You can type above 0.05. So I'm going to quickly turn this off, hidden in game, and we're going to press play. And now this is what I've got just from Exponential Height Fog, which is the fogginess that's on the ground. And you can see it's thicker in the distance, and we can actually make this even thicker, I believe. We've got fall off for height, so the higher you make this, then the lower the fog will be. You have the max opacity, so if you want it to be thinner, you can make it thinner. we have a color, so we can change the color of the fog. We have a start distance, so that if you want it to start a little bit further away from the character, you can. The lower the number, the sooner it begins. We have some directional interscattering. This is for indirectional lights and creating like beams that would come through should we have enough scattering. Yeah, so that's quite nice like that, isn't it? So that's just fog, and if we were to say look at the shader complexity, optimization, shader complexity, boink, we are perfectly fine because this is just using pre-computed fog that Unreal's doing, not using a shader. And I believe that this, I'm trying to get, there we go. I believe this is just using like billboards. So if we turn this one back on, which is the atmospheric fog, because I'm using 2, let's make this no longer hidden. By using that as well, I can add a bit more to the distance and a bit more color. You see we're getting like this darker gray on the ground in front of our guy. So we can use that as well. Now to do this, we can change the fog multiplier, so we can change the amount of fog here. That's a lot of fog. Now I had this around 10-ish. Let's just undo it because I'd rather have that number back. Yeah, it was 10.6. We have a density multiplier which changes the density, but we're not really going to see it changing that because of the other fog that we have. We have a density offset which can change how dense it is depending on how close to the character it is. So we're going to leave that about there. We have a distance scale, so the further away, the more of it there is, or rather, the larger it will appear. And then we have other things such as the altitude scale, and then when we start to change these, you'll notice we get like a little bit of a color change. Same with the distance offset, we can make it bluer, we can make it that kind of grayer, almost like a purple. We have a ground offset which can do the same thing. It just offsets where everything's starting. We have a start distance, we can have this a little bit further away if we wanted, or stay it up close. And by using these and combining the two things, we can crash Unreal. Oh, it's not crashed because I can see my little thing is still blinking up in the corner. I've probably just pressed something. Yeah, I'd accidentally tapped out of the play window. Derp. So yeah, you can see that we can get quite a nice fog just using the built-in fog that Unreal gives us. I wouldn't use particles to the guy that asked me about particles because, as I say, they are really bad for shader complexity. It's because of the translucency. Every time it adds another particle behind that that's also translucent, it's combining translucency, and each time it's rendering again because it's the Z buffer will render targets in front, and then anything that's in front of behind an object won't get drawn. So right now, you can see the character. Anything behind the character, the Z buffer isn't drawing. It knows that it doesn't need to draw that because the character's in the way. But with a translucent object, the engine will say, this is translucent, draw what's behind it. So it will go behind, and then it will find another translucent object, and it will go, okay, draw behind this, and draw behind this, and then draw behind this. And once it gets to the back, when there's no more translucency, it will draw, and then it will come forward, and it will draw the very last translucent object in the stack, and draw them all forwards. So essentially, you are drawing the scene again and again and again, because every single time it has to redraw what's at the back, because it's adding a new layer on top. So you're killing optimization by using like a stack of translucent fog particles. You can just use this and you're gonna get perfect runtime using this. Although the sliders are a little bit finicky and the numbers, it's going to depend on how thick you need the fog, the color you need the fog, how much light's coming through, all those things. But they're all there. They're all controllable. So just drag in an atmospheric fog and an exponential height fog. This scene already had an atmospheric fog, so I think I've got 2 of those now. Yeah, it's labeled number 2. I don't know where the other one's. There it is. But that's just default, so it's not really doing anything. You can see it's all just set to 1s and 0s. But yeah, give those a shot because the particles are just not the way to do it. I mean, I can throw those in and you can see them, and they are quite nice. But again, here it comes. There it is. Yeah, we don't like that. That's bad. I mean, for certain projects, that's going to be okay because you're not going to really worry about the complexity. Um, but it depends on the project. It's really project dependent. So I'll quickly show you how that was made. I'm just going to delete it from the scene because I don't want that rendering. I don't like it. I don't like it. So all we have is GPU sprites. The required is just our fog, and I have a PSA facing camera position. I've got it set to 1 loop. The spawn is just 0 on constant, count is set to 100 on a burst, lifetime is infinite. They have an initial size of 500 because I needed them bigger. The color of a life doesn't matter, it's not doing anything. And then they have a seed that gives them 2000 X and Y and 100 Z locked. For whatever reason, these would not rotate in the particle emitter. It's the first time I've had that, and I googled it and just couldn't find anything. Tried replicating, and every single time just could not rotate them, so I ended up rotating them in the material instead. I'm just using a rotator, and this is what we've got. This is just clouds that were rendered in Photoshop, and then I'm using a radial gradient to just create a circle rather than have the whole cloud. A depth fade to make sure that they're faded out depending on how far away they are from the camera, multiplying this all and then into the opacity. It's a very quick rundown, I know, but I don't like that system, and I don't think it should be used really. Just use the fog that's in the game rather than particles for fog, because they are just performance killers. So I'm going to leave that one there. See you guys next time.